This past week on AEW Dynamite, Samoa Joe retained the Ring of Honor television title against Keith Lee, then promptly relinquished the belt, having won it 574 days ago and defending it 18 times. I suppose my biggest question would be, is Joe giving up the title after so long not defeating the entire f***ing point of long title reigns? Time and again we've been told that the biggest benefit of a long title reign is that the person who finally defeats the champion has accomplished something majorly important. Look at when Orange Cassidy recently lost the international title to Jon Moxley, in a match that meant so much because of Orange's reign that it main evented a pay-per-view. Made even more impressive by the All-Atlantic title that Orange won being a joke at the time. With all of this in mind, here are 3 realistically possible wrestlers who you could have done something good for by having them defeat Samoa Joe. Before I begin, I want to know your names of who could realistically have been the one to topple Samoa Joe for the TV title, so let me know in the comments. Number 1. Mark Briscoe. For a while before Mark suffered a knee injury that kept him out of action for the past few months, Mark Briscoe was on a bit of a quest to win singles gold in Ring of Honor. Admittedly, he'd moved his attention to Claudio Castagnoli and the world title, and was even set to challenge Claudio at Death Before Dishonor before having to pull out due to injury. But before that, Mark had previously challenged Samoa Joe at the pay-per-view before Supercard of Honor. On that night, Briscoe even had his family at ringside to hopefully see him win singles gold. But sadly, Joe put an end to his dreams. At the time, I felt like you could do so much more following that match to continue this story and create a massive feel-good moment had Mark finally been able to dethrone Joe. Before I move on, I'd like to share with you a quote from a recent interview Mark did for Sports Illustrated in regards to his in-ring return on this week's Dynamite. Possibly the best quote I've read in quite a while. Speaking about returning from injury, Mark said, "I've been waiting to scratch this itch ever since I went out with the knee. I've been waiting, and I don't particularly handle all that free time too well. Next thing you know, my wife is pregnant." Mark already has 7 kids, by the way. That's a lot of injury time. Number 2, Lance Archer. There's not all that much to this one. Take one big scary dude you're not doing much with, and add another big scary dude you're doing a bit more with, and turn them loose in Ring of Honor. In Lance's case, he's someone who AEW has chronically not had many plans for. Having entered the company right before the pandemic, Lance has, according to AEW's roster page, had 63 wins to 16 losses on his record. That's 79 matches since his first for the promotion against Marco Stunt in April 2020. To put that into some context by comparing it to other wrestlers who had their first AEW match around this time, Matt Hardy, who joined AEW around the same time, has 98 matches, and Orange Cassidy, whose first was in February 2020, has had 162. February was also when Wardlow's in-ring debut happened, and he's had 91, though admittedly he also has 3 TNT championships to his name as well. To be clear, I mean none of this to knock Lance Archer. I'm a fan of him, and I just hope to see him doing more. To be fair as well, there are some caveats to these stats. For example, Lance did return to New Japan a few times, even taking extensive time away to compete in the 2022 G1 Climax. Also this year, Lance has been dealing with a tricep injury that has stunted his progress, having only had 27 matches in 2023. It just feels like more should have been done with him by now, at least a TNT title reign or something. Lance entered AEW with a bang, being a key figure in the tournament to crown the first TNT champion, making it all the way to the finals at Double or Nothing against Cody Rhodes. And it's hard to pinpoint another major storyline he's been involved in since then. I'm not saying they haven't happened, just nothing quite as memorable. Honestly, and sadly, there are a few names I could have included here and made a similar argument. Miro maybe being chief among them, but also Malachi and Wardlow too. Number 3, Eddie Kingston. We've gotten this far into the video, and I haven't even mentioned the reason Samoa Joe gave for giving back the ROH TV title. And to be honest, there was a reason for that. Samoa Joe claimed in his post-match promo that he wished to set his sights on the AEW World title, which he recently had a shot at and lost to MJF. Technically, he's had 2 shots recently, but the real world title he challenged for in Wembley Stadium is probably sitting in CM Punk's fridge right now. What if, instead of focusing on the AEW World title, Joe set his sights on the ROH World title instead? What if Samoa Joe, still maintaining his record-setting reign, decided to challenge for another belt he already owns the record for? Samoa Joe first won the ROH World title in March 2003, just over 20 years ago, and he held it for 645 days, making him by far the longest reigning Ring of Honor World Champion ever, and the longest reigning TV champion now too. How awesome a Final Battle 2023 main event that could have been. It would have put Eddie Kingston in a really interesting position, being the current Ring of Honor World Champion, yet still the underdog in the eyes of many. Given that I'm calling for Eddie to beat Joe here, you could even take this opportunity to unify the ROH World and TV titles. They already have a pure championship, and all the belts AEW has, and maybe we could do with one less. And this would have been a great time to do it, in the main event of Ring of Honor's next pay-per-view. What do you think of my picks? Do you have any of your own? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for your time, and if you like this video, please consider liking or subscribing.